Welcome to the show that explores the methods and strategies on rocking the financial side of your music business. With over 40 years combined experience, here are your hosts, Chris Webb and Dave Tampkin.
Welcome to Musicians Tip Jar, where we talk about musicians and money, where we step up to the mic with intentionality and purpose. I'm Chris Webb, joined by my co-host, who shows up every week with a mic drop, Dave Tampkin.
It's better than the drop from last week, which I had no idea what you were talking about. Later, to only find out it was the bass.
It's not the bass.
It's not? Is it the beat? What is it?
It's everything. It's like what they call their big climactic sections.
It's the bass.
Today, we go micro-focused on one area that we both have made some of our largest income streams from over these years, the world of cover shows. We will give you all our industry secrets and standards so that you can expand your business plan and up your income. Today's quote comes from Steve Martin. He said, "Become so good that they can't ignore you."
Have you read Steve Martin's autobiography?
No.
Highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. Even better to listen to, but then deny that you listen to it and just tell people you're an avid reader. Say, I read that. This week's nonprofit is the Gary Sinise Foundation. Honor, gratitude, rock and roll. That's the mission of every Lieutenant Dan Band concert. There's something for everyone as the 13-member group covers hits from every genre in their explosive live show. At the Gary Sinise Foundation, they serve our nation by honoring our defenders, veterans, first responders, their families, and those in need. They do this by creating and supporting unique programs designed to entertain, educate, inspire, strengthen, and build communities. Learn more at GarySiniseFoundation.org. If you find this information useful, please rate and subscribe to the podcast and also slam that like button if you're on YouTube so it can help keep you up on the finance side of your music business.
As we all know, there are unlimited ways to make money in the music industry, and these days that is definitely expanding. And no two musicians will create the exact same career. Over the years, we have really developed a professional side of our business to include cover gigs as a significant source of sustainable income. We decided it was a good time to step up and break down all of the best tips and insights so that you can up your game and turn down the crap opportunities. Let's go. I know the frustration of pouring your soul into original songs only to get a meager payout. Covers can be that crucial bridge. They offer a steady income stream, letting you make a living playing music until enough notoriety is gained for original songs to facilitate a complete transition. This finance cushion lets you invest in better gear, proper recording, and actual marketing for your original projects. And suddenly you're not a starving artist anymore, but a working artist, a working performer. And that's a game changer. We're going to talk about some myths and some strategies that we do. The other thing I want to say is that this can be implemented no matter where you are in your career, perhaps until you get to that point where Red Rocks is being sold out. This could still be a part of your game plan. I still book with my booking agency people that play Red Rocks and then come and play these corporate gigs. So there's still room for this at a lot of level in that whole area in between the top and the bottom.
And there's nothing wrong if this is your career, if this is what you want to do. This is some of the finest musicians I know can listen to a song and be able to play it no problem because they've become so skilled at learning these songs so quickly. And they make quite a bit of money doing it. So this could be an end goal too, if you want it to be.
And I enjoy this a ton. I enjoy doing this as something I'm very good at, and that's part of why I enjoy it. But we'll talk more about that here in a sec. Let's start with that first myth of cover songs lack artistic merit.
I mean, I'm going to say that it almost allows me to get away more artistically if I don't know the tune that well. People might say, there was a very interesting version of that cover song that you just delivered. And I say, thank you very much. But really, I'm thinking that was the best I could do. And I just got through it.
Yeah,
I mean,
in the end, you're like, I survived.
Yes.
Right.
But also opens up a whole new avenue of artistic expression if I intentionally wanted to do it that way.
Totally. Well, and actually, I think I know my style. So I'm always looking for cover songs that are going to be popular and people will enjoy, that I think will fit well with my kind of niche of stuff that I like to do in my creations, And so there's always going to be the songs that's a good fit. And then there's also that way of doing covers in your style that makes you kind of the only artist that does it that way. Actually, on film and TV right now, there's a lot of demand for covers of other people's songs, but not just covers, but covers done in a completely different way than the original. Not just a version that's going to be less expensive than the original artist doing it, but in fact, a reinvention of the cover of that original song.
I often look for covers of covers when I'm learning a new cover, just to open up a different way of hearing that song and kind of allow myself some grace to not have to nail it every single time.
Totally.
But learning all these different cover songs allows your fingers to adjust differently, allows vocal patterns and muscle strength in your vocals to perform differently. It gets you out of your comfort zone as well.
You can't do a song just like the artist that did it originally. No matter how hard you actually try, it will still turn out like you. And so I have that conversation with people sometimes where they're like, well, I don't want to do someone else's song because then I'm copying them, but you can't. You can't get your personality out of your sound. That is one of the things that I've learned over the years. And experimenting with all this stuff really just helps you understand that better the more you do it. And then you become attached to what it is that you sound like. I really think that's important, that you like your sound, because then you're going to be excited to see how all these people's songs turn out with your sound. But it is definitely an art form. And it is definitely something that when you hear someone do it well, you really can enjoy it because you can attach to their brand and be familiar with all the songs that they're covering.
And it brings the audience in to be familiar with something that they know. So they can say, hey, I'm paying attention to this. It's a little ear candy. And then maybe they're paying a little bit more attention to the next song that you might want to play that's your own.
For sure. Yeah, with a lot of the gigs that I play that are more, they're not as official corporate kind of things. They'd be more residency style. I always say 85% covers. That is one of the things that I think is a good balance that we found. It's like a formula that works. 15% you sprinkle in of your own stuff in there, and you know when it's the right time. When someone's really engaging with you, sometimes you get to that point where people even ask you, "Can I hear one of your songs?" So it's a finesse though. But when somebody asks you for it, you've done a really good job of playing songs that they like your sound. So you've really worked them into being really interested in your song. That may be the best sales pitch you could ever get to get a new fan for your original music that you could ever have.
Or if the performer is super annoying like you are, that they can just ask to listen to a few bars of the song and then play the whole song right there and then. I mean, that's not only annoying for just the other musicians in the audience because of your talent, Chris, but people really seem to like that.
Well, we can talk about that strategy if we want to expand on that, because I really do think if you want to up your income on your gigs, you learn how to learn songs fast. You learn how to fake it, right?
Yeah. But you would even say early on, like if you learned one cover a week, how much that would help you not only get faster for when you did have requests for either weddings or private events, that you were just building your repertoire and stacking and stacking.
Totally. I mean, the larger your catalog, the better.
Yeah.
And we'll talk a little bit more about how I think that you should organize that too, because I think having a well-organized catalog is a really valuable thing as a cover artist. Before we go into those kind of tips, do we want to talk about myth number 2?
I do, yes. And this is important information, I think. Myth number 2 is cover gigs hinder your original career. And this is a big one. Cover gigs can actually be a highly strategic stepping stone for your original career. It provides essential funding. It helps you build an audience one by one. It gives you invaluable live experience that you wouldn't get if you're in a small market and you can't play your original stuff every weekend around people. The idea that it hinders your career is usually due to the lack of planning or over monopolizing your market. And I see a lot of artists do this when they first start building their career and say, I'm going to be a full-time musician. And they list every single gig they have within an hour radius of their home. And sometimes you have to say, hey, this is my original project, and this I'm doing just to get paid. And Andy Sado, I'll post that right after this, does a great explanation of when he gets hired to do covers all night compared to when he's hired to bring people to, a venues. So I think this is something that could definitely fund your original projects. You just have to be careful about how you market yourself with it. And there's nothing wrong with playing to a built-in audience and entertain them all night with songs that they want to know, pepper in your own stuff. And then when you play original show, maybe grab that one cover that you've just been nailing every time you play cover shows and introduce that to your audience.
Yeah. Well, and the other end of that I think is also often in this myth that it's at least related is that sometimes you have to learn to enjoy learning covers. I feel like certain time periods when people are younger, they don't want to play any covers. Like I did not want to play any covers. All I wanted to do was write songs, record songs, release songs, my own music. But if someone had just helped me realize back then that how valuable it is in so many ways outside of this money part that we're talking about to learn other people's songs, I think I would have really improved as a songwriter faster,
Yeah.
And so it's like there's this part of you at that, it's wherever you are in your phases of music and your development as a career, it's really important that you understand the value of learning other people's music because you're not reinventing the wheel. Whatever you're doing has been done to some extent, and it's really important to learn how other people did it well. And so it's really important for that aspect. So let's talk about focusing on how we think that you can increase your income as a cover performer. And there's a lot of ways to do this, and it really can vary depending on how the type of shows that you're going to be taking. But I think part of this conversation should be the type of shows that you should be taking versus the ones that are probably not worth taking. Let's start out with number one, your market positioning and your branding. So you need to find a niche selection of what you kind of do, right? I think part of that organically occurs when you've chosen your instrument, right? If you're a guitar and singer, right? Acoustic guitar player and singer, or if you choose to do electric guitar and singing by yourself or with a duo, right? All of these kind of things are going to vary and help you select that niche that sort of organically occurs. If you're somebody that can play the drums and guitar at the same time, I've seen this. That definitely puts you in a niche, right? And so those kind of things, defining those kind of things and helping understand then what type of music is going to work well or best, at least, with your style and your niche is really important to understand where your value is going to be best placed.
With those gigs, you can also look at them as your personal training ground to excel at that niche. Improves your playing, develops your technique, explores your styles that maybe you would have never touched otherwise. It's like a masterclass in musical instruction and ideas if you immerse yourself into that.
Well, and when you brand yourself as an alt country trio, right? All of a sudden, who you're working with to help you find those gigs, which we'll get to here in a sec, will become so much easier for their job, right? This is always the case in this industry. Is the more specific you can identify your value, the easier it is for you to have those valuable opportunities find you. And so sometimes we just get a little too broad, like, oh, I do a little of everything. It just won't help you when it comes to finding where your true value will be recognized.
I know we're going to go into different venues that you can perform these in when you're doing your brand, but I think paying attention to that is also very important. if you're playing the local bar on a Friday night and someone knows how much you're getting paid, that devalues you for that private event or that wedding or that high-end corporate gig. So I think also when you're going into this project, kind of be choosy to where you play, or at least to where you again advertise you play.
Yeah, and that is always that distinction is are you expected to advertise for the event or not, right? And that depends on the event. I do a lot of residency stuff that it's intentionally not required to advertise.
Yeah.
Because then you can play as many of those as you can. And same with a lot of these one-off corporate type of events where, they want you to travel to it. I'm doing a bunch of those, and the same thing, I'm not expected to advertise for them because it's just for their company. It's not expected that I'm supposed to bring people when I get to Seattle or when I get out to northern Wisconsin. I'm not expected to have that draw there. And that's really important because my value is still high, but my expectation for drawing an audience is non-existent. And that's a really nice combo to be able to say yes to these opportunities, because I would be a lot more stressed out about it if I had to bring in a lot of sales in an area that I don't spend any time building a market there.
Also helps you build a market there, because if you are booked with far enough in advance in Seattle, the next night or the night before, you can play the local venue and put all your advertising, some of that budget that you're getting from that cover gig, into marketing this local venue and build your audience there. And you're not so dependent on what you're making for the performance, but you can sell merch, you can get in front of new audience, you can do advertising, all because this other gig is helping you pay for that.
And that is something you and I are going to do together here in September, because I'm coming back through playing some high-end corporate gigs in the Chicago area, and I have 2 nights off. And so you and I, by the way, I don't know if I've told you this, but you and I are going to play a show together in St. Charles, because we should, because that's where I grew up and it's near where you grew up, and we can bring our families and our friends as well as anybody that might still be interested in our music. And all of that combined is a wonderful way of just having a little fun and making some more extra money and connecting with your audience while you're building that around all these other things. So all these corporate gigs, they're paying for me to come, they're paying for me to be there. All of that is built in around the fact that you and I get to do something really fun that we have not done in a long time.
All I heard you say was you're playing a high paying corporate gig and I get to have some of that. That's all I heard. That's going to pay for the adventures that we get to have together. That's fantastic, Chris. That's so generous of you. And I really do appreciate it. If you need someone to carry your guitar case into the event, I'm willing to help in any way I can, but thank you for being so generous.
Of course. Another thing about the marketing and the branding that I wanted to cover was how valuable it is to have professional branding, high-end quality photos, video samples of what you do. And I wouldn't say go film yourself performing at a corporate gig, because it just doesn't look that good. It's better to create a video that looks really impressive with separate recorded audio, and that you can combine and create. It's what I've done, and it made all the difference in how high end of a attraction I created in my brand.
Do we get to play that for everyone?
No, you just go to YouTube and look it up. Yeah, but also having a clean website that I think should look artistic. I think your website should look like, because a lot of times these corporations or these events, they want to hire an artist. They don't want to hire a hokey band. Well, like they want to hire a band that they feel like they're really impressed with, that they would like to go see. Having a nice website that makes that vibe, I think, is really valuable. And EPKs have their place here, but they're less important in the corporate.
What you're learning here is to have a unique selling proposition to your clients for these cover bands. Like, what makes you stand out? Do you do mashups, acoustic versions? Are there theme performances? Chris Webb brings his tap shoes and also likes to tap in between songs, which is crazy because not that many people get to see Chris Webb tap and it's something you don't want to miss. But like we talked about, imagining cover songs differently also helps. This stuff also it goes over to your live shows for even your original stuff, and it helps you with your stage presence, make that crucial part of your performance. Bar gigs require high energy, movement, and engaging banter. You need that too when you don't have downtime when you're playing a corporate gig. You have to keep the music going. These gigs teach you how to grab and hold a crowd's attention, engaging your live audience, build skills that carries over to your original shows, and learning many of these covers. Also, like how we talked about different niches before for yourself, this you've done it plenty of times where they expect different genres from you, don't they?
Yeah, you'll get booked based on a theme of the event, and you'll have to cater your set list to that theme. And that's where having diversification in your song list is really valuable, because you can fit all these different niches. But I still think no matter what, it comes out like you. So they still have to like the way you sound.
Yeah, agreed.
And the way you do it. I do a lot of looping, and I do a lot of percussion on my guitar, and I harmonize myself with my own vocals. So I make it sound so much bigger. And I think all of that with my personality is part of my brand that can appeal to certain audiences.
And I think the more you do those shows, the more it speeds up your development as a musician and as a confident performer. I know even when we've been talking, or I've been talking for the last few episodes about not playing as much, I can feel those nerves now more than I did 2 years ago, because it's just not ingrained in me. I'm not playing as much as I used to, where before I'd have no problem jumping up there. Definitely nervous, but because I'm excited and I want to do well, not so much like, hope I could nail this.
Yeah, and being confident up there, I think, goes a long way. We've talked about this before in previous episodes, that how well you engage with your audience, part of that is your comfortability. Part of that is your professionalism on the stage to confident. Because if you come across as awkward or uncomfortable, your audience immediately absorbs that energy, and they can be uncomfortable and awkward too. So if you're playing at an event, like a cover gig, maybe at a bar, let's say, and you're kind of building that audience, and you're engaging with them, like you said, you have some witty banter, or you have ways to make them, you ask them questions. That actually works really well in bar gigs and those kind of events, because people want to engage with in those atmospheres. They want to be able to talk. They want to be able to ask for songs. They want to be able to talk about their favorite band, or how they play guitar and they gave up because their life has gone a different direction. Whatever it is, like getting to know each other, so where you build that relationship is a skill. And then as that builds, then you know your set list, and you know what songs are going to work well, right? And you hit the song that they were thinking of before they even asked. You know how many times that happens? They're like, God, I was just about to ask you if you knew that song. And that's how you know you're in tune with it, right? You know that you're on. And as you build that, I mean, I work so hard at my last couple sets, always building and building and building, to where I get people into a huge amount of energy at the end of my show. So it's really climactic in the end of your show. And you know that last song, you're saving your last song. You know what that's going to be, or maybe your last 2 or 3 songs, so that you know that you have those in your pocket to end with, and that they're going to love it, because you know this crowd, because you've gotten to know each other. And so that really is all part of that skill and that building of your professionalism and the way you approach each event individually.
Do you save your tap dancing to the end, to those 3 songs? Or do you sprinkle that out throughout your set?
I usually kind of break into it unexpectedly, especially if there's like a bar table I can just get on in their face, tap dance my way through
Do the Greatest Showman. The Greatest Showman.
It's funny you say that, because I did get that request, that song.
So good.
So good. And I had never played it, but it was like a 12-year-old girl that was with her family. And I was like, I'm going to try it. I've certainly watched that movie a few times with my daughter. I think I can fake it. And I got through a verse, and then I did the chorus like 5 times. And she was thrilled, Yeah. And her parents were like, thank you so much. Here's $40, like it just is about trying. Sometimes you don't really need to nail it. Like you said before, it's like people just want to feel validated that what they like, you like, and that you can do something close to it. They're going to be happy,
Have you ever been like, that was a $50 request? Like, do you
I have not done it. I have
just
some
joking.
performers that'll be like, we'll do 2 more songs because their set list's done, but we'll do 2 more songs for $100, and people will come up with $100. Like they are boldly asking those
Wow.
questions.
Good for them.
So yeah, totally right. And that if it's working, it's working. I'm more hesitant, and I think it would come across as me not comfortable asking that. So I've never tried to do that. But I've been like, oh, if you want me to, the people will say how much to keep you going, and then I can negotiate with them. If you want to negotiate with me about for another 3 songs, usually I have a rate for that.
Yeah.
But to just
$1,000.
yeah, that's right. On the microphone though, like to say $100 for 2 more songs, I just don't have it's not in my personality. So anyways, let's move on to the second strategy here that we want to discuss because we got a lot to cover. Strategic gig booking, right? It's not all about your performance and all about your sound and your brand. It's also about making sure you're taking the right opportunities to increase your bottom line. If you want to make this a substantial type of income stream, you're going to need to make sure that you're filtering out the stuff that's going to waste your time and energy. So for me, targeting high paying venues is a good place to start. This can be like, oh, I know the highest end hotels in the town that I'm in, or I know the places where the biggest corporations come to for their conferences and their events, things like that, where you're really focused in on where that money is going to flow the biggest, right? Weddings are certainly something where a lot of people make their bread and butter off of. And that I think is a separate category than corporate gigs. I think you should have those income streams be separate. And then another one like casinos and resorts, I know that you're going down to the Hard Rock down there. Those can be really well paid gigs with always a built-in audience. Again, you don't have to promote the show itself. You just have to make sure that you're negotiating for your rate for the value that you think you can bring.
And be prepared for those hotel gigs to be much different than those casino and resort gigs. Because some of those gigs you could be in the background, where in the casino and resorts, you're up in front. Same with weddings. You're up in front that whole time. You have to be prepared for every single one of those songs, in between songs, keep things rolling. Where some of those hotel gigs too, you could kind of sometimes end up moving into the background as a jukebox almost.
Yeah, and I actually think that knowing what your role is part of your professionalism. Knowing because we all have egos, right? And we know how good we are. But if you aren't being professional with what you're hired to do, you're not in the right place. You know what I mean? Like if they have to tell you to turn down, you're not paying attention. If you're boring the hell out of the bartenders at the bar, you're not in the right environment. You just really need to know where you're going to fit. The other night I played a gig that was a very high-end gig, one of the highest end gigs I've ever played. And when I say that, I mean like the payout was really good. I played for probably 2.5 hours, but I got no breaks the whole time. And the craziest part was I was playing for 6 people. And it was during their dinner. I can't even say who the people are because that was a part of the non-disclosure. But what ended up happening was it was a very intimate space, and there was 2 chefs that were coming through and presenting all these different courses right during their dinner meeting. So I had to make sure that first of all I was quiet because the room was small, but I needed to be able to use my looper and all that stuff in order to be able to play a lot of the sections that I do. And I had to watch anytime the chefs would come over to introduce the next course, I would smooth it to instrumental and quiet, and I would wait. And then as soon as they were done, enjoy your meal, I would pull the volume back up of my performance so that it kind of felt like the room filled back up, and those kind of things were very humbling because I cannot be in their way. You know what I mean? They hired me to create an atmosphere without getting in the way. It is not about me in any way. In fact, if it becomes about me, again, I'm doing something wrong, So I think it's really interesting because you have to just know what you're getting into, because as soon as this was booked through one of my favorite booking agencies. And I was going to say that too, that I really recommend that as you understand your value, that you find the booking agents that can really help you with that value, because they have the opportunity and the connections, and they're in a circle of situations that you just aren't going to be in on your own. So if you really want to start getting those opportunities where you think you're going to be really good fit for, I think you need to find the right booking agents to make that happen for you. But they hire me because they know I'm going to do that without ego, without any complications, and very reliable. Right, I'm half an hour early before I'm supposed to be there. I'm doing all the things and being polite and and dressed appropriately and knowing when not to talk or engage with their guests. Like those kind of events, they're very different than playing at a bar.
Who did you say you played for?
It was Hootie and the Blowfish.
With, you're saying with no ego, but also with your professionalism and how long you've been doing this. You demand respect to where you are no longer playing those bars where they'd give you a drink ticket for something that, like what you're doing right now. You are taken care of pretty well when you go to these shows too. They have the utmost respect for you and what you bring to their party. So that's something as well. If you're going to go play crappy places and get treated like crap, that's what you're going to get. So when you're talking about finding these high-end places, show up for these high-end places because you're going to be treated nicely and you're going to want that respect that you give them in return. And you're going to find that these higher paying gigs treat you like that because they're professional as well.
Totally. Yeah. So let's maybe list a couple types that we think, and this is hard. We put some numbers down here, but I'm not sure that these numbers are going to be valuable for everybody.
Well, the restaurant club gigs really hasn't changed much since 1991 or 1971.
Here's how I would like to see it universally, like around the world. I would like to see that people are paid $100 US dollars per hour of performance. I would like to make that the standard expectation. If this gig is a cover focused gig, I think that's the appropriate rate. Now, I know that that's going to be impossible for some venues to afford in the middle of a quiet town in rural US, but I think that then that's telling you that that's not the right place to be spending your time as a performer if that's the case. So I think that is like a standard set expectation that you should go find that market that puts that value there so that you can start making a decent income as a performer.
You do more wedding and corporate gigs than I do. What do you think about that rate that we have down?
Well, so I don't play many weddings, but now, because here's the thing.
But you have.
I have played so many weddings.
Okay.
and I think that I think if you're going to spend 8 hours, which is the thing about weddings for me, is that you're preparing all these custom songs. You're learning material often, you're getting paired up in a band often with other people, or you have a band. And all of that takes extra work and time. Plus, then you have to commute to the event, which is usually at some destination place. You usually end up being there all day, running around, doing all the different facets of the event, until the night's over, and then you're the last one to pack up and get out of there. I think it's a lot. And so I think you should get more than $100 an hour for a gig like that. So for me, if I'm going to be there for 8 hours, it's a minimum $800, and that should be the case for everyone, because your time isn't just about your performance. I know that's how they rate it, but we're going to only have you perform for a half an hour during the ceremony, and then 4 hours later we're going to have you play during the reception.
Yeah.
It's like, well, so the time in between is free. Like, it shouldn't really work that way. So I really think that you should work up towards that, still $100 per hour, but I think it should be trying as close as you can to how many hours of time you're really going to be there. For corporate gigs, that's all over the place. It's really all over the place. I think the minimum would be the 100, but I think it is an infinite number above there. The more you bring value to that specific niche, the higher you can charge. I know some people that are getting paid $5,000 for playing for a couple hours as a cover performer. Not only that, but they'll fly them on private jets to go there onto these remote islands. This stuff exists. I was talking to a gentleman the other day. He was pretty successful on The Voice, but now he has a business where they hire him to build his own little team. He lives in Australia. He's from Australia. And they'll fly him all over the world to these big corporate events. They spend 3 days there with him. The finale is a big show. And in between, they're also sitting with them on these corporate sessions where they write songs with the corporate group and build like a song that's going to be about team building. It's going to integrate into their corporate message, but in a fun way. It's nice. It's different. They get paid. I don't even want to say it because you'll realize that these gigs exist. Like, that's the first thing to realize, is that if you don't think you can make enough money, that's because you don't think you can make enough money. If you start looking at where you can add value and have fun doing stuff, and maybe where your talent stacking meets into this place of a niche, you can find the right places that will find that value for you.
There's a woman out here in Madison, Beth Keeley, who I just learned started doing group building by writing songs together for corporate companies that they have an outing where they come together and write songs. That's the first I've ever heard of that.
That's cool. Well, maybe we kind of tie this one up with just a small part at the end here, is that you're always negotiating, and you learn to negotiate, and you start to learn your value better and better. And certain gigs have value in quantity. That's the other part that, like, my booking agency focuses on residency events. So we book on quantity. So our rate will be at that certain spot, but it will also be valuable because you're going to get booked on times when you wouldn't get other gigs, not necessarily only on weekends, and not only during peak times of the year, right? So you can look for value in those places too, when you have slower times and all that kind of thing, and knowing when to say no and knowing when to let go. I mean, last night, one of my gigs that you and I have both played many times over the years at a place we enjoy playing kind of fell apart. Unfortunately, the venue is struggling, and I feel for them, because that's never something you want to see with an establishment. But because of that, they're cutting back on everything. And so 6 dates that I had booked with them over the summer evaporated in a group text.
Yeah, not cool.
And not cool, very unprofessional. And certainly it's not something that's going to be a make or break, but it does bother me, because all the years of building a relationship should have mattered a little bit more in communication and the way it was all handled. But it also made me look at it and be like, this was the only type of show I play anymore that doesn't have a contract, that doesn't have a guarantee that if it cancels, I still get a certain amount, if not all of the amount that I was contracted for. And I looked at it and I was like, thank you for reminding me that I needed to cut this off.
Yeah,
because it's not safe for me to function that way anymore, because now there's 6 dates that are now just evaporated. So luckily some of them are far enough out that I'm sure I will replace with something else, and it'll probably pay me 2 to 3 times more than that gig would have, and all of it will be a wash. But the lesson is very valuable, because you're always learning to negotiate. You're always learning to be smarter about your business. And there was just something there where they were friends, and I thought they were friends. That friendship doesn't guarantee you professionalism.
And that's also reputation. Because of that situation, the reputation now has got all the way to Madison, where I'm depending on a flight for that show to, pay for a flight out to Colorado. So now what do I do with that information? I have to cancel ahead of time and find something that is more solid, because I don't want to be in the situation that just happened to you. And I know we're going to talk about that on the reverse end too, is, venues want the reputation of a musician to show up on time and be ready to go. But yeah, hearing that news was a red flag for me.
Totally. And it should be. It should be a red flag for anybody that doesn't have contracts with their events, because this is the risk you take then, especially when it's with places that are maybe not so, the higher end, the more professional the approach is with everything. I have contracts, I have agreements, I have deposits, I have all these things, And then these lower types of these types of things, it's just like, oh, thanks for the text with the dates, And it's like, why would I keep doing this when these are the results? And it's just, sometimes it takes a little kick in the butt to be like, oh yeah, time to mature again on your business.
Yeah.
So let's talk about smart pricing a little bit. I feel like we might have covered a lot of this already, so it may not be too necessary, but knowing your market, knowing what other people are getting paid in your market is really important, because if you're not charging the same amount, you're actually hurting the market, right? If you're charging below, I should say. And you really don't want to do that, because that's not nice to the other musicians that have worked their butt off to be qualified for that rate. And so I would suggest that what you do is make yourself qualified if you're not getting the same rate as everyone else. So it's not just about getting more money. It's also about making sure that you're not bringing the market value down.
Yeah.
Offer add-ons. Like, this is really important, because like the other night I played a show where they wanted to make a speech, and I was like, well, I'm bringing my microphone. They're like, well, we need it to be wireless. And I'm like, okay, well, that'll be an extra $200, Okay, no problem. Like, okay, great. I'll bring my microphone. So having those things, first of all, having high-end gear that you can rent out, but then also knowing how to make sure that you don't just end up providing it for free. Those are really important things, that you know the value of them. If they had to go out and buy that microphone, it's a $1,500 wireless microphone. They're not going to do that. But they really want it to sound good. They're not going to go out and buy that cheap one that they can buy on Amazon for $80. Like, they know that's not going to work either. So you're bringing a value there with these offered add-ons, having background playlists and certain things like that, and having all these tip strategies. If you haven't started working on your tip strategies, you need to go back and listen to that episode that we spent talking about tips, because
QR code out.
Yeah, having that QR code, having multiple ways for them to tip you. It is a very cashless world right now. And so making sure that it's easy for them to do, and that your QR codes work, and that, that you're mentioning it, that you find ways to make sure that they're aware of the tipping. Even these high-end corporate gigs, what I found is that they want to tip you. They want to tip you, even though it seems it's not appropriate to put a tip jar out for a lot of these things. I always put it on the floor right next to me, because they want to tip you, and you got to give them that option. And if you're in the middle of a song, it's weird to be like, oh, take the money while you're playing a song. So if you just put it there, you can kind of nod to it. Like, it's down there on the floor.
I usually wear Velcro pants, and I just like push out the side. And like, just put it in there. Put it in there. And then I go back to the song. This also helps for, special pricing, like beyond income. You got to understand your expenses. So it's not just like gas and your PA system, but think, like you said, instruments and equipment, buying, renting, repairing, home studio costs, professional fees. How much you said you book some of these through your agent, right? So you have to pay them a percentage. If you're looking at contracts, you have a lawyer to do that. Accountants, insurance. One time I had to buy insurance for one of the hotels that, you had to go through. So that was for a year, and I had to divide it by how many shows I thought I was going to get that year. So all this stuff is how you should be looking at every part of your business. Because you're making more money here, there are more expenses with it too sometimes. And the more you're on top of your budgeting and forecasting, that's just going to make you better at any other aspect of your music career.
That also with travel fees and special equipment for those kind of things, and extending your time, all of that is a part of this too, is knowing what those values are ahead of time. I really like it when people come up to me and say, like, how much for they'll say an hour, and I'll say, I'll give you 3 more songs for this much. Like, knowing what you're going to say just simplifies it so much. And so that's a really big part of that. And then the other thing that I was going to add about your travel comment too, about knowing that your added expenses, like if you're getting booked to travel, your travel expenses obviously are going to be a huge factor, and they cannot be absorbed in your fee. They have to be separate on your invoice and charged to the event. Otherwise, you ain't going to make any money, unless this is really worth going to just because you wanted to do it and say that you did it. It really isn't going to be the case as you become more dependent on the income itself. But the other part of that is that you can, when I get all these rewards now from the air miles and from the, from the credit cards that I use, and the strategies I do within that, And I know we say stay out of debt, 100%. Do not put it on credit cards if you ain't going to pay it off. But I earn a lot of miles on my travel cards that help pay for my family vacation. So there's a lot of strategy there too as you build that stuff.
All this stuff is practice for how you handle every situation on and off stage. You just said if someone says how much for X amount, you want to have that right there. So you're not like you need that in between songs on a set list. If you're stuck tuning your guitar with nothing, every single part of that transaction is people are being entertained and watching you. And I think that's, again, the way you should handle your music career, how you show up to not only the business side of, we're talking about, say, covers, and you don't feel like maybe artistically this is what you want to do, but it's just a lesson in life and how you handle all of these things. Marketing and promotion.
Yeah, I think for me, the only thing I want to say in marketing and promotion, when it comes to improving your value as a cover performer, is know the places where you're going to get the best opportunities. And if that's someplace like Gig Salad or the Bash for wedding stuff, those are popular. But it could also be just knowing the right booking agents, getting involved with them. And that's, again, where you need to reach out to your community and find out who those people are. You need to be prepared to approach them professionally and with professional value to offer. Those are the biggest ways I think you can improve your bottom line the fastest. Building a fan base and stuff like that is going to happen, but it isn't going to increase your value as quickly as the others.
Anything you buy, it's because of demand. You want that. You want that thing, and you have to increase the demand for a performance. So know what you are promoting and what you are not promoting, because if you need people there, you don't want to advertise every single show you're playing in October within an hour. I mean, I used to build these little flyers that had like 20 shows on them. What the hell was I thinking? And I mean, we're talking early 2000s, but I was so proud of that list. Look how well I'm doing. I am showing everyone I am a full-time musician by listing all these places I'm playing. Well, I don't need to go see him on Friday because I could see him on Sunday. I don't need to see him on Sunday because I could go see him on Wednesday. So keep that in mind when you're doing your marketing, because venues that aren't corporate ones or that need to promote you, even if it's cover gigs, they don't want to hire you on a Friday when you're playing up the street on the previous Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or the next night.
Yeah, or the next night.
They often are.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Let's move on to technical excellence, because I think this is one of those areas where we all can continue to improve. And I think some of these will resonate with a lot of people. And this might be one of those areas within your action step that you might find easy accessibility for improvement. Professional sound is so important. It's so important to invest in good gear. Do not waste your money on crappy Amazon wireless microphones. Do not waste your time on buying crappy speakers that you think are going to equate to the high-end ones, but half the price. It isn't the way it works in this industry. The high-end speakers, the PA systems, they are better. They are better audio quality. They are better built. They are going to last you longer, and they are going to work way more reliable in all circumstances. Same thing with when you're buying good microphones, good pedals, good instruments. It's really important that you build high-end professional gear and do not waste your time and money on buying crap and then having to replace it because it failed you in very important moments.
When I got my first Bose L1, the compact ones with the battery on the bottom, it rolled in the back of my car. So when I went to open the door and lift the back hatch, it fell out of the car off the top of everything I had there and rolled down the driveway into the street. Still works to this day, no problem.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, worth every penny.
Totally. I had a drunk person knock one of my QSC speakers off of a 2-story building.
Like,
and
what?
Landed on concrete. That thing should have shattered.
Come on.
I swear to you, I wrote QSC a letter, an email. I was like, you need to know This thing survived.
I wish you would have told that story first, because then I wouldn't have told my B1 story. Like, oh, it fell out of the car and rolled down the street. You're like, great.
I was playing that show with Meg and Bert. We were playing together, and we all were like, "Oh, that thing's toast." Nope. Still
How
works.
did it fall? Was it just like on a ledge and someone bumped into it?
It was on a speaker stand, and the speaker stands were up against the ledge. That over the ledge was all down. Luckily, nobody was down there because they would not have survived it. I mean, it was a 15-inch speaker. It was really heavy. Anyways, it's important to buy good gear because stuff happens. And when you're buying good gear, that also will increase your value, because as a booking agent, I know who has good gear and who doesn't. I'm not booking the person with bad gear, because I know that just opens up a whole nother world. Doesn't matter how good of a musician you are. If these high-end clients get distracted because something breaks and pops or something during a performance, it's all going to get ruined. They really care about, they won't notice how great you are. They'll notice a couple things that you do wrong, right? Like they'll notice the big feedback, or when something stops working, they will notice. And that's the kind of stuff that matters as a booking agent.
Do you think if you were playing elevator music, that speaker would have fell slower?
They would have been less scared of the fall. That's what elevator music's for. Well, those are all good points. Let's keep moving, though. The other thing about the technical excellence that I thought we should put back in there, we've discussed a lot of the energy and the performance stuff, but also that preparation. It's really one of those things where you don't want to show up to a gig, especially if you're playing with a band, that you're not ready for your part. These are things that need to be said. You need to be ready. You need to be prepared. You want these high-end opportunities, be the performer that everyone wants. It's just one of those things.
And set your band up for success. If you know that Brad needs to capo and tune, don't start the song. Maybe talk a little bit. Don't put Brad on the spot and make him look like an a-hole. Not that I've ever done that multiple times.
Point taken. So let's move to number 6. This is our final one of these here. Network and relationships. We talk about community constantly because it is such a critical pillar to building a successful business in this industry. And this area with cover gigs is 100% centered around community, building a good network, and having strong relationships. Part of that to me is actually being a very ethical person, because you will get a reputation of being a ripoff if you are someone who does shady stuff, and that will destroy your business, right? Always be ethical, because it will come back. It's very karmatic. Is that a word? Karmatic? I like it. If it's not a word, I should use it. But you need to know that these relationships don't just end with your bandmates or with other musicians. It also works with the venue owners and the local promoters and your booking agencies and anybody that maybe is working in the industry in any sort of outside way too.
And be transparent on how you're going to do that. If there's a paycheck that you promised everyone, show up and pay them what you said you're going to pay them. If it's an original band that everyone says, hey, we're going to take these cover gigs and go over here and try these different things, let everyone know that you're going to put a percentage aside of every single time you get paid that covers the band just in case something happens. And then no one has to ask questions of where the money's going to. Everyone has transparency.
And the more that you build your reputation, the more that people will recommend you. I get so many recommendations because of my consistent efforts to be the best they can ask for. I think that really precedes you. And the opposite end too, right? If a venue fucks you over, even though
or cancels 6 shows in July,
you're probably going to talk about it a bit, and it's probably going to become something that other people are aware of, and they're probably going to avoid that place too. It all is karmatic. I'm just going to give you. So professionals, you conduct yourself in a way that we all want to just continue to recommend, because of all things, we're sitting here talking about how do you increase your money end of this, right? How do you play cover gigs and make more money? The center of it all is how professional you are at all of these different areas that we've discussed. So ultimately, the choice between covers and originals isn't an either or situation. It's a strategic continuum. For us working musicians, For us working musicians, success comes from our ability to strategically weave together different forms of musical expression, the income generation, rather than sticking to rigid definitions of what an artist should be. We should be fluid with this stuff. We should be willing to go where the money is offered to us, right? And where our value is being shown. So by understanding the myths and these facts, embracing our professionalism, pouring our unique artistry into every performance, and then treating our music careers like a multifaceted business, which they are, we can truly uncover the immense potential of cover gigs.
We want you to take these tips into your action step this week. Try upping your game with intentionally sharing with us your results. So I put 5 down, okay?
No,
what? I mean, 5. It's multiple choice. No one wants 3. Three's too easy. 4 is not enough. Okay. So number 1, audit your online presence, update your EPKs, bio, song list, videos, and venue details. And if this has to be something separate and you want to try just covers, you can always do your URL / and call it whatever you want and build an individual business there, see how that goes, and then you could build your own URL. But kind of just get a set list in order. Make that your action step this week for just maybe cover gigs. Set up a social media ad to promote a live clip with your targeted booking for the intent of playing just cover gigs. Number 3 is reach out to 2 or 3 event planners or venues to pitch this new idea you have and send them your live video and say, hey, I can knock this out of the park. Call Chris Webb. Number 4, practice a polished corporate style MC intro and professional event flow. I think that's super important. I do it for this podcast more often than I would like to admit. That sometimes might not show it, might not seem like it, but I am going through intros and things that I want to say prior to Chris and I jumping online here. And it's helped me on a lot of my live shows, what I want to say in between songs and how I even want to open the night. So sometimes think of it as just singing or practicing your instrument. You have to practice what you're going to say. And last, thank past clients and ask for testimonials or referrals. 1, I would say just thank them first and ask nothing in return. I send Sherry's berries. If you're getting a high corporate gig, send them something that they'll remember. Because I promise you, many musicians do not send a thank you card or Sherry's berries or chocolates or a vegan cupcake. Do something that's original and just thank the people that have helped you make your living being a musician. And then wait a week or 2 and then send, hey, do you like the Sherry's berries? And then ask for a referral. 5 steps. How'd I do?
Well done. We know your time is valuable. We appreciate you spending this time with us and being a part of this community. It's our hope that you feel that sense of community here at Musicians Tip Jar and that you'll help spread the word to make us all stronger. If you'd like to get hold of us, what's the best way to do that?
Send us an email at musicianstipjar@gmail.com. You can find us at musicianstipjar.com, where you can check out all the resources and discounts we have collected just for you, and check out all our episodes now on YouTube. If you find this information useful, please rate and subscribe to the podcast and slam that like button so we can help keep you up on the finance side of your music business.
As always, thank you for joining us. And remember, there is already enough for everyone. You just need to know how to get it. Until next time, on behalf of Dave Tamkin and myself, Chris Webb, stay happy, healthy, and wealthy. Amateurs practice until they get it right. Professionals practice until they can't get it wrong. This is Musicians Tip Jar.
Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, business, or financial professional for individualized advice. Individual results are not guaranteed, and all discussed strategies have the potential for profit or loss. The hosts are operating on behalf of Musicians Tip Jar, LLC exclusively.
Could use some help, could use a little help here.